It has been an interesting couple of weeks. I've been kind of decompressing from publishing my The Whole Truth video. Spending time with family, touching grass. There is still a whole heck of a lot to say. If I'm being honest, though, it's probably still going to take me some time to process all that. Took me 3 years to make this video. Hopefully it won't take me as long for the next one. If I'm being honest, the reaction to publishing The Whole Truth video has probably made me a lot more confident in being able to have more honest conversations. And yeah, I'll try to do more of them. I felt it would be a bit awkward to jump straight back into just doing your regularly scheduled programming, critiquing culture and whatever latest political gaffe has happened. I don't know. So I figured I'd spend this video kind of addressing some of your concerns, praises, criticisms, my initial thoughts about publishing that video. Yeah, let's jump into it. So my first thoughts when I hit publish, I genuinely was not expecting a positive reaction at all. I was actually on the phone with a friend of mine when I hit the publish button on the video, and I remember saying to her, well, rest in peace, my life. There it goes. Obviously, I was wrong about this, though, and the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. So what the hell was I thinking? How was I so wrong about the response and what it was going to be? Well, I was expecting people to behave how they always have acted on the internet, how I've seen them behave every other time someone's done a video like this. Mass anger towards my video without even watching it. It's a 3-hour video. Who's going to watch that, right? I'm shocked that you guys got through it. A total refusal to hear any criticism of the movement. Certainly I expected people to just want to support creators and activists because they liked them, they'd latched onto their cult of personality, and wouldn't want to hear any evidence that ran contrary to the godlike images they had created in their head, When you've put years of your hope and faith in someone, it's easier to just ignore the bad side sometimes. The other thing I was definitely expecting when I published this was mass slander from people that I had mentioned in the video, just, coming out swinging as soon as I published. And because I know they know everything I said in the video was true, I wasn't expecting them to address the claims I had made at all. I was kind of expecting unrelated personal attacks, lies to be spread, whatever, right? That had nothing to do with refuting the actual video. But that didn't happen. Instead, it's been total radio silence. And I think Paul has me blocked on Twitter. So it's like, just pretend Lauren doesn't exist right now, which I have never been happier in my life to be so wrong about the reaction to something I've created. Certainly when it comes to the audience reaction, I think it's really been a white pill for me. It's pinpointed an important turn in politics that I've been observing lately, where people have seen the political activism they've followed over the years just kind of treading water. I think they're getting sick of the same old videos over and over and over again. And people crave more honest, genuine conversation. They want people to be more honest. I think that's why live streaming is getting more popular. It's just candid. It's not scripted videos or anything, right? So there's this shift taking place where people are like, life and politics are not solved or lived as a series of talking points. A listicle won't ensure everything goes perfect. Life is messy. It's difficult, complicated. And we don't always just want to listen to creators who pretend they've all got it figured out, and because when things go awry, the movement, whatever fails, there's no simple explanations to that. The political visions and dreams that us creators portray sometimes just don't align with reality and the lives we're living. And I think it's cool to kind of break through that. That's going to be the only way we're going to have positive political conversations going forward. One thing I will say here, though, is especially as a creator that's coming from the world where everyone did a lot of scripted videos, just kind of sat, talking points. Not that we didn't believe in the talking points. I do agree with a lot of them. But it's very difficult as a creator to have more candid conversations sometimes because there's no formula to it. It's not like you can, I'm just going to put out my honest thoughts today. They're a bit weird. They're not what people are used to, but I'm just going to throw it out there. You don't know if that video is going to do well, or people are going to resonate with it, or if people are just going to mock you for them, right? Whereas you just do AOC did X thing bad, and that's going to be a consistent way to just kind of keep things moving along smoothly, right? And then I think it can be difficult for you as the viewer as well to take on the burden of watching more complex, emotional, not quite curated content, because you guys have real lives too. You're working jobs, you're going out. You don't have time to watch like 4 hours of someone emotionally unpacking their reaction to life. People go to political creators and they go to content creators because they're supposed to know more. They're supposed to have put in the effort and the time to study these topics for hours and hours and hours, and then put it in a concise and simple, platter for you, the viewer, so that you can go to someone you trust and get the information in a simplified way. So it can be hard for both the content creator and viewer, I think, to have these real life conversations. Also, it's just like uncomfortable, right? Most of the conversations and like the personal stuff I spoke about in my whole truth video, those are conversations I have with people like on the couch when they're at my house and I've known them for years. And wow, here's this crazy thing that happened to me. Not usually stuff you put out there in the internet, because if people kind of learn about little like emotionally traumatic moments in your life, like the experiences I had, losing friends, being harassed, whatever it might be, you open yourself up to people rejecting and not caring about those emotions. So you usually leave them for a small group of people. Although the internet's kind of changed in that way, right? Everyone's kind of putting their feelings out there, looking for clout, looking for attention, which also makes it even more difficult for people who don't want to be perceived that way as just trying to get clout and attention to talk about their honest feelings about the world, right? Oh, it's so complicated. So I don't know how we're going to have these more honest, complex conversations. All I know is that people are obviously craving them, and they can be done well. And they can be done successfully, like the whole truth video. I just don't know. I don't know how many more of those can be replicated going forward. But it's been a nice confirmation of a suspicion I've had for a long time that, people are craving those raw conversations. So that's cool. That's a white pill. I appreciate it. But anyways, speaking of white pills, I wanted to get to some of your thoughts and your criticisms. And one of the main bigger ones I saw was a lot of you guys wanted to know, Lauren, you've told us who the bad guys are. You told us who the evil villains are. Who are the good guys? Who are the honorable people you ran into in politics? I want to start this by saying I don't like the idea of sorting people into good and bad. I don't think people are all one or all the other. Even the people I highlighted in this video that I observed do objectively bad things that hurt other people, ruined lives, stole money, I think was damaging to the political discourse. I still think they're complex individuals. Milo, despite all of his flaws and everything he did to me, is a charming guy who has done kind things in his life, right? He's done kind things for me. I think I even mentioned like the LA situation. And I think he's contributed fascinating conversations to the political scene. Tommy Robinson, perfectly fun to hang out with. Really, sweet guy when you're not in those complex political money situations, right? And of course, since the video I published has come out, I've gotten into arguments with friends of his who assure me, Lauren, I don't know how you could say this about him when he is one of the best men I've ever met in my entire life. And I don't doubt in their personal experience that may be the case. It doesn't change the observations I've made or the experiences other people have had with him. But, people are not single moments in their entire life. So if by asking me about the good people, you mean the people who never did anything around me that I found unbelievably questionable or unethical on an industry level, who were kind and decent at every turn, from my perspective, I did have people that were like that. I hope just by listening to the story, they were kind of obvious, like Stefan Molyneux refusing payment for the Australia tour to pay the staff first, to make sure the show went on, that people paid for their tickets and got what they had come for. Alum having my back time and time again. Lucy Brown helping Tommy despite everything he did to her. Brittany Pettibone was like a freaking sister to me, right? She's that girl has held me while I've cried. She's been there for me at every turn of my life. She was always a very, very kind person. Then just on like an industry level, Tim Pool. When you're like 21 and your job is traveling the world constantly, it's really difficult to create a community, right? But one way I did that was having friends and, just acquaintances that also did the same thing. And you'd kind of get to know them, even if they were like mainstream media photographers or whatever. You'd run into them at all these riots and events all over the place. And they kind of became a little crew that you go get lunch with after being in a cheeky protest, or go halvesies on an Airbnb for a bunch of people so you guys didn't have to spend too much money. And Tim Pool was one of those people I ran into a lot when I was doing politics initially, and never saw him do anything I found truly objectionable or unethical. In fact, I'd say he's probably one of the hardest working people I ever watched in politics. That dude, I look at the success he has now and I'm like, damn, he deserves it. He worked his ass off. He was the guy that was working 12-hour days, just nonstop grind, right? So I look at that and I'm like, that's nice. That's a white pill. He's someone who deserves his success, no matter, I know there's like a million critiques and a million people who hate him for whatever reasons, but nah, he worked his ass off for that and never had to cheat anyone out of anything, And then, probably the best people that I met in my time in politics were you guys, the viewer. There was never any financial incentive for you guys to be involved in this all. There was never any clout incentive. You weren't trying to take anything from it for selfish reasons. You guys are always just genuinely invested in the cause and what was being fought for. So that was always a positive experience for me. Now, do all of the good people I met in my time in politics offset the bad? Not necessarily, but it does give me something to look back on and smile and remind me there were a lot of people that made it all worthwhile. I'll be cheesy and quote one of my favorite lines from Doctor Who. The way I see it, every life is a pile of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa. The bad things don't always spoil the good things and make them unimportant. But anyways, I hope that cheesy quote answers a bit of that question about the positive people I met in politics. I'll think on it a bit more and see if there's more positives I can highlight from my time so that it's not all depressing. It's a problem the media in general have, only highlighting the negatives. But first, let's answer another big question I got repeatedly on Twitter and YouTube, which is, am I stupid? I liked this question. I saw a few people who were hypercritical of my whole truth video say that there was simply no way I was as naive as I was saying I was. I had to have some part in this all. I had to have some complicity in the awful behavior, been aware of it, whatever. There's no way I was that stupid. This is a two-part answer. First of all, yes, I was that stupid. Incredibly naive, unfortunately. And I will honestly say it's only now in my life at 27 years old that I'm starting to feel less naive about the world. Although I'm sure if you ask me at 30, I'll tell you I was an idiot at 27. Just seems to be the cycle we all go through. That doesn't mean everything I've ever said or done is wrong or stupid, but I'm just saying I have a much, much broader view of the world, life, and politics than I had even just a few years ago. Now, part two of this is, did I have some complicity in the awful behavior, or was I aware of it and trying to hide it? And I think the answer to this is pretty obvious. I said as much in the video, which is yes, I hid it. I didn't want to talk about a lot of this for years because I didn't want to hurt my side. I was absolutely complicit in it all because of this, and I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of it. And, perhaps it is the case too. I saw people kind of analyzing this saying, I think the only reason she actually came out about all of this is because she was personally burned by the bad behavior that was going on in the movement. So that's why she finally came out and outed this. It would be nice to sit here and pretend I'm some sort of saint that would have talked about all of this corruption anyways. I don't know. I think I would have eventually, but I don't know. I'm a human being. I try to do what's right. Generally, I do, but I also fail a lot. And, there were multiple motivations for me making this video. Maybe it was just the fact that I was personally burned that pushed me over the edge, even though it was definitely a large reason wanting to talk about the hypocrisy and expose it, right? I could sit here for days and psychoanalyze my motivations, but no matter what it was that pushed me over the edge to make the video, I am proud of it. And I'm glad I finally said it all out loud and hoping I could do more videos like it. The only other big criticisms I saw of the video were random nitpicky stuff or unrelated personal character attacks. I saw one very silly criticism that said, "Okay, Lauren, Milo did some shady shit, but so did Trump. You take the good with the bad. Basically, move on, don't talk about it." Which I just think is so absurd. Like, just let the corruption fester, Lauren. Or you're a whiny crybaby. Like, no. Thousands of dollars of good, honest people's money was being stolen and squandered. I can't just take the good with the bad there. We need to call out the bad. Oh, he raped you? Well, at least he was wearing deodorant. You take the good with the bad. Don't cry about it. Like, no. I absolutely believe in the idea of redemption. I believe in the idea of forgiveness. Lord knows I need it all the time too, right? And, letting people move on and grow in life. But there has to be some form of acknowledging the wrong done and moving on from it. Some sort of apology, anything. And that's the reason this video was made, because no one even knew about any of this, right? There had been no reconciliation for what had been done. The only other criticism I could really identify that I saw from people was that I only did this for views and money. Which, if you know anything at all about copyright, I made exactly $0 dues on this video with all of those classic rock songs I included. In fact, the video was an absolute money pit with all the time and expenses put into it for 0 returns. So there's that. I did it so I could sleep at night, which is obviously something you can't really put a price on. But yeah, I think those were kind of the biggest criticisms that I saw online of the video. And it makes me pretty happy looking at them and thinking, these are like pretty small and nitpicky and easy to answer. If that's the biggest criticisms people have of it, I think I did a pretty good job of communicating myself well. So pretty happy with that. But enough of my thoughts. To end this little analysis, I wanted to go through some of my favorite comments from you guys, because I've been reading so freaking many of them. There's like 7,000 or 8,000 comments on the video. And of course, I can't reply to them all, but I have been reading most of them. My dad was up till like 2 a.m. reading the response too, and he was just so overjoyed with it. It's been cool. So yeah, let's jump into it. I used to repeat that saying, conservative is the new punk. Now I understand the problem with it. We ended up with people who didn't give a shit about being conservative. They just wanted to be punk. Yeah, very true. This documentary has a better soundtrack than most movies. I am glad y'all appreciated it. A friend of mine recommended that. I was having trouble deciding what the chapter names were going to be, and they said, why don't you just do some of your favorite songs? So I did that. I love my dad rock, and if you guys do too, you can check out the Walkman playlist on this channel. All the stuff I listened to when I was younger, literally in my Walkman. My first CD for my first car was The Cars. Loved the Beach Boys, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, that's super irrelevant to what I'm talking about in this. Next comment. In a weird way, watching this made me feel like I've been growing up with you. I guess it's because I kind of grew up alongside you. I'm glad you can finally get some of this off your chest. It honestly put a lot of closure on some storylines I remember from years ago that never made any sense. I can't imagine how it leaves you feeling. Welcome back to the real world either way. I loved this comment because I sometimes forget just how true this is. Will I talk about this whole story like it's all my life and my story and super unique to me? Before I did this, I was a viewer of political content, right? I was the person on the other side of the screen. And I always felt like when I listened to these people, they were explaining concepts in my life. They were talking about my journey. Because, and yeah, I think I kind of forgot about that. The fact that like you guys are on this same political journey yourself. You're seeing parallels in my story to your own, whether it be your experiences in university, local politics, just day to day. Like every experience I talk about in this story is stuff you're all going through too, alongside me. You're seeing your heroes rise and fall. You're, getting disappointed with the world and how dark and complex it is. You're having ups and downs, and it's just like all of our story. It's not just mine. It's cool. I always like to look at biblical parables, like, eating of the fruit of knowledge and your world opening up to all these new ideas, and then it's suddenly getting darker and more complex, or being the prodigal son, going out and having your experiences and coming back and realizing, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. These are all parables that we experience in our own life, and a lot of our lives will have a lot of themes that are similar. I'm just saying it in my life context, but I know a lot of you can relate, which is cool. Yeah, I really like that comment, which brings me to another one, which kind of plays into it. This video is basically a peek behind the curtain of life, shining a spotlight on the complexity of interpersonal relationships, intrinsic ulterior motives, and the darkest recesses of humanity. Yeah, it's definitely a far more honest conversation about human dynamics than I've had on the internet ever. Another comment here that found the Easter egg in the video. The clip at the end is from the amazing movie Almost Famous. I've always loved the movie and now realize how fitting it is with what Lauren has told. It's in part about meeting your heroes and realizing that they are flawed, sometimes even selfish people, and that it is possible that what they have been creating or preaching had a much deeper meaning for you than it did for them. Oof. That's like a gut punch, like to make heroes of people and believe in something so much and then realize that you're kind of the schmuck. I don't know if it would be schmuck, but actually you're probably better off because you really believe in something. But to realize that, you believe in it all more than the people that you were propping up to be the leaders and heroes of whatever movement. It's a heavy thing to go through. And I'm glad someone spotted this little Easter egg put in there. All right, I figured I'd end this video on a tweet thread that I saw and I felt encapsulates the whole thing better than I could. A lot of your comments described the concepts I was trying to get across in much simpler and more articulate ways than I could. Obviously, I needed 3 hours, but this tweet said, "The Lauren Southern video is about the right, but on a larger scale, it's really just about the dark side of human nature, which is not bound by party, ideology, or profession. Avarice, deceit, ego, betrayal, resentment, all of these are human things." Once again, very true. And the biggest tell for this, for me, has been the hundreds of messages I've gotten privately from other creators, massive ones you would never expect to ever message me, people from industries that are completely unrelated to mine, telling me that they're going through the exact same thing, actively. They're being blackmailed, they're terrified, they're dealing with corruption in their industry, and they feel like they'll never be able to talk about it. All backgrounds, all political sides, all telling me this. I'm obviously not going to dox them and put their messages out there, but this is really just the human experience, not just my experience. And, I hope all those people that have messaged me kind of get the confidence to come forward and talk about it. I hope they get to a point, maybe it'll take them 3 years too, so I can't judge too much. But the further I go along in life, the more I appreciate people for their integrity and less for whatever team or side they're on, less for whatever, their public image is or anything like that. And I'm gaining a lot of respect for people I never thought I would. Losing a lot of respect for people I never thought I would lose respect for, right? Aging changes your perspective on the world a lot, wholly, but I'm 27, so I'm sure I'm still an idiot. But anyways, it's been cool to read some of your stories. I've watched a lot of the video reviews that have come out of The Whole Truth, just repeatedly reading your comments, seeing a lot of you relate with me in my experience, and it's been a real joy to have this conversation publicly, finally. And yeah. I'll wrap this up there. I don't know how much else I have to say, but I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you for letting me bare my heart, something I don't like to do, something I don't like to expose to the internet, because holy, that's a dangerous thing to do. But yeah, you guys made it a very comfortable and much easier thing than I thought it would be. So I really, really appreciate you all. And maybe possibly back to our previously scheduled content, normal stuff again, next video. I don't know. Maybe I'll just lose my mind now that I've come out and talked about this all. We'll see. Appreciate you all. I'll see you next time.